Under tonight's moon, the same light that's watched countless stories unfold, we turn gently toward two ancient myths shaped by love, loss, and return. These tales were first told in fire-lit halls, and tonight they soften into bedtime whispers for those of us who drift into rest with old voices close at hand. A meadow bright with blossoms awaits us, where a young girl's steps will call forth the turning of the seasons. And in the quiet that follows, a lyre's mournful notes rise from shadowed halls, carrying the devotion of a man who would follow his beloved beyond the living world. Persephone's descent and Orpheus's lament unfold slowly, like fading echoes, inviting us to listen and let the stories move through us. If you find peace in the quiet night, tell us what hour finds you awake. There's something special about sharing these myths across time zones, knowing we listen beneath the same stars. And if these stories bring you calm, a gentle like helps other dreamers discover them. Subscribe as well, so you never miss the chance to wander again through forgotten legends. Now, take a moment to soften your lighting. Let a fan whisper in the background. Settle into your most comfortable position, and let these stories carry you away. In the beginning of this story, think of the world as a great circle that breathes. Gods keep the rhythm. Seasons move like a slow hand across the earth. Fates measure and cut threads we cannot see. Each god has a place in this order. Zeus watches the heavens. Poseidon rules the sea. Hades keeps the quiet country below, where every life eventually arrives. Demeter tends the grain and the fruit. And Demeter's daughter, Persephone, is the touch of spring itself. Light returning, green rising, small things waking. Nothing is random here. Bonds tie god to god, mother to child, promise to promise. When one thread is pulled, the whole cloth shifts. Even choices that look sudden may be the slow work of time, finally showing itself. Down in the underworld, Hades keeps the gates and the laws of endings. He is not noise or rage. He is the stillness after sound. He wants a queen who knows both tenderness and strength. Above, Demeter keeps the living fields. She wants her daughter near. Between those wants, the old order waits, listening. Now step closer, into the light of a single morning. You see a meadow, bright enough to make you blink. Wildflowers scatter in easy rows, red, white, a stray blue here and there. The sky is clear. The air smells like warm grass. Bees hum, a small, steady sound. Persephone moves through it with a basket on her arm and friends at her side. She is young, but not a child. Her dress brushes tall stems. When she bends to pick a blossom, her hair falls forward, and she pushes it back with the quick, thoughtless touch of someone at home in her skin. "Leave the red ones," one friend calls, laughing. "Your mother prefers the white." Persephone smiles. "My mother prefers anything that grows." They move together, talking softly. The sound is summer still. A low stream somewhere. Bees, their quiet voices. Every so often, Persephone turns, as if she hears someone else calling, a sound in the distance. Not quite voice, not quite wind. She cannot name it, so she lets it pass and picks a daisy. Then the light changes. It is not a storm, no sudden crash. The birds hush, the bees pull back. The ground beneath the flowers gives a small sigh, like a door easing open. A seam appears in the field where there was no line before. Persephone straightens. Her breath lifts once, steady, then again, faster. Her friends step back, skirts brushing stems. A chariot rises from that seam, as if drawn up from a deep road. Two dark horses stand firm. Their manes ripple like water. The driver is tall and quiet, with a crown that is more shadow than metal. His eyes are not cruel. They are the eyes of someone who has waited a long time and knows how to wait longer. Hades, Persephone whispers, because she knows. Everyone knows the names you are told not to say. He does not rush her. Persephone, he says, in a voice like a distant cave, smooth and low. Her heart beats in her throat. She hears it as a small thud, like the knock of a fist on a wooden door. Her hand tightens around the basket handle until the wicker creaks. Come, he says, be queen beside me. Her friends scatter then, calling her name, calling for Demeter, for any god who might be near. But Hades does not lunge or shout. He steps down from the chariot and holds out a hand. The horses shift, metal tack whispering. The seam in the earth waits, patient as a held breath. Persephone looks at that hand. It is strong, but not grasping. My mother, she begins. I know, Hades says. His gaze does not leave her face. I will keep what is yours safe, and you will keep what is mine fair. There is a pull here, like the tide to the moon, like sleep when you are already halfway dreaming. The world above is bright and open. The world below is cool and sure. Persephone's fingers brush his. The touch is a surprise. His palm warmer than she expected. The warmth moves up her arm and settles behind her ribs. Her breath changes. In, slow. Out, slower. The meadow tilts, not with fear, but with the weight of something decided long ago. She steps up. The chariot shifts. The horses toss their heads and huff, soft. The seam closes over them as they go, the way a pond smooths after a stone falls through. The bees return to their humming. By the time Demeter reaches the meadow, the flowers stand in their silent rows again. Persephone's basket lies tipped on its side, white petals scattered like small moons. Demeter takes one look and knows the kind of empty she is seeing. She runs her hands over the ground, useless gesture, and calls out in a voice that shakes the trees. No answer. She presses the heel of her hand to her chest as if she could keep her heart from trying to break free. In, hold, out, hold. The count steadies her just enough to act. She goes first to Hecate, who knows the edges of things. Hecate listens and says, I heard a cry. I saw shadows move, not cruel, not kind, only certain. Her torches gutter and flare as if remembering. Ask Helios, she adds. He sees what the sky will show him. Demeter climbs to a high place where the sun god cannot pretend. The day is bright, but her eyes are grim. Helios, she says, don't look away. Where is my child? Helios does not love secrets. He looks at Demeter's face and answers what he saw. Hades took her, he says, with Zeus's nod, if not his hand. Demeter stands very still. A seed can hold a whole tree folded inside it. A single word can hold the next season. Zeus, she says carefully, like setting down a heavy jar. She goes to Olympus. She does not bow. You let this happen, she says. You let him take my daughter without a word to me. Zeus holds out his hands, palms open, the peacemaker's pose. Sister, listen. Hades is no stranger. He keeps the order. He will treat her with respect. She is not a token to place on a board, Demeter says. Her voice does not rise, but it does not soften. My child is not a coin you can spend to balance your ledgers. Peace, Zeus says. We will speak. We will see. Demeter does not threaten. She names what will be. As long as she is gone, the fields will sleep, she says. If my arms are empty, the barns will be empty. If I cannot hold my daughter, no one will hold a harvest. That is not anger, Zeus. That is symmetry. Zeus looks past her to the earth below. He sees green already paling to gold too early. He sees orchards that will not sweeten, vines that will not swell. He nods because he understands the weight of balance. Give me time, he says. Time is what you have taken, Demeter replies, and leaves. Down below, the underworld is not fire and shrieking. It is stone and river, cool and humming. The light comes from nowhere in particular, soft as the inside of a shell. Persephone steps from the chariot, the ground firm under her feet. Her breath fogs lightly in the cooler air, and she laughs once at the small cloud of it, surprised by her own voice. The sound echoes and returns to her, a gentle reminder that she is here and the world listens. Hades gestures to a garden. It is not like the meadows above, but it is a garden all the same. Pale blossoms grow on low trees beside a river that moves like a slow thought. There are willows with long fingers that touch the water and let it go. Farther on, a wide field holds asphodel, muted as a winter memory, but alive. I do my best for them, Hades says, following her gaze to the countless souls drifting like tall grass in a current. I keep the laws. I keep the gates. They needed a place to rest. I made it one. Persephone walks a few paces on stone smooth from long use. Her fingertips trail along a wall, and she feels the cool grit and the faint grooves where other hands have moved. Touch anchors her. Breath anchors her. She is not trembling now. And for me? She asks, not harsh. For you, Hades says, and he takes a small breath, steadying his words. There is rule, and there is respect. No noise, no games. You will have a throne beside mine, a voice equal to mine, and your own halls. If you wish to walk, no one will bar you. If you wish to be still, no one will press you. He waits, then adds, carefully, I will not force food on you. She notices the care in that promise. Why say it that way? Because food binds, he answers simply. Eating here makes your place here strong. His eyes hold hers. I will not take your choice. They walk the garden. The whisper of the river is the only sound for a time. Then softer sounds arrive. The clink of metal far off. The hush of a robe passing stone. The faintest laughter from somewhere deep. Two souls meeting and recognizing each other even here. It is not joy, not properly, but it is a kind of comfort. Persephone sits on a low bench and looks at the water. Her heartbeat has settled. She can feel it resting between her ribs like a bird with its head under its wing. Hades stands a short distance away, giving her space, but not leaving her alone. What do you miss already? He asks after a while. The heat on my shoulders when the sun moves past, she says immediately, and the smell of dirt under my nails after I pull weeds, and the way my mother pretends she doesn't watch me when she is watching me. Hades nods. Tell me those things when you remember them, he says. I will listen. She turns to him. What do you miss? He is quiet long enough that she hears another sound, a deep tremble that might be the earth reacting to someone's grief far above. I miss surprise, he says at last. Up there, it is everywhere. Down here, the rules are strong. Surprise is rare. She smiles, a small, real smile. Then I am surprise, she says. Yes, he answers, and it is not a claim, only a recognition. Above, Demeter walks the roads like any tired traveler. She takes the shape of a woman whose back is strong from work, whose hands know grain and bread. The first night, she comes to a village as the sun falls sideways through dust. A woman at a doorway looks up from a pot and calls, "Stranger, have you eaten?" "Not yet," Demeter says. "Then sit," the woman replies. "You can tell me your road while the stew finishes." They sit at a plain table. A child sleeps by the hearth, breath rising and falling under a woven blanket. Demeter's eyes soften on the rhythm. She puts her hand, light as a leaf, on the child's brow to check for fever, the old habit of any caretaker. The skin is cool. Her own breath answers with relief that is not hers and is hers at once. The woman talks. The wheat is thin, she says. The goats don't want to kid. My husband says it's a bad year. I say the year is a mirror, and we should look at ourselves. Demeter listens, eats a little, and lays her hand on the flour jar as if it could hear. In the morning, when the woman reaches for it, it is not empty. She opens her mouth to bless the household spirits, then thinks of the stranger and runs to the road, but Demeter has already gone. She goes on to another town and another, stopping where she is needed, not naming herself. At Eleusis, she sits on a stone by a well until the king's daughters find her and bring her to their mother, Metaneira. The queen sees a woman who has lost something, and she knows the look. "Stay," she says. "Help with the child, if you wish. We will set a bed for you by the hearth." At night, the house quiets to the small sounds of sleep. A log shifting, a chair ticking as it cools. Demeter holds the infant and hums a tune that mothers have always known. The baby's breath sinks to the rhythm of her chest. In, out, in, out. The warmth of the tiny back seeps into her palms. She does not think of what she cannot fix. She keeps what she can hold steady. After many nights, she stands and speaks in her own voice. The firelight draws gold lines across the room. "Build me a place," she tells Metaneira and her husband when they wake. "A small temple on the hill. I will show you how to honor the harvest and keep the sacred things. In return, I will teach your people rites that help them face loss with courage." They believe her because something in the room feels larger, and because the child sleeps like a saved thing. Word spreads. A stone foundation rises. People carry baskets in silence, lay offerings with both hands, and leave with a different set to their shoulders. Still, the fields do not swell. Fruit hangs light. Winter touches the edges of summer and does not draw back. Zeus watches the thin lines of smoke from cold kitchens as they rise through the air. He sends for Hermes, quick-footed, sharp-eyed. "Go down," he says. "Speak to Hades. Tell him the balance is tilting. The world above cannot starve. Demeter will not bend. We must bring Persephone home." Hermes nods. He is not only a messenger. He is a bridge, a road made person. He knows how to move between places without bumping against the furniture of either. He tightens his sandals, adjusts the little weight of his cap, and smiles because movement is his favorite answer. "Shall I promise anything?" he asks. "Promise nothing you cannot keep," Zeus says. "Ask everything you can." Hermes bows and is gone in the space it takes to blink. Almost. Not quite. He leaves a stirring of air, enough to move a leaf on a laurel and make a tired farmer think for an instant that the wind has remembered them. Down below, Hermes steps lightly onto stone. He stands at the edge of the garden and does not speak until he is invited. Rules matter here. You do not yell into a quiet room. Hades comes, not surprised. Surprise is rare, but not gone, and nods at the visitor. "Hermes," he says. "Uncle," Hermes replies, light and respectful. "I bring talk, not thunder." Persephone watches from a little distance, one hand on the smooth branch of a pale tree. She has learned the colors of this place now, the soft silver of the river, the bray that is not sad, only deep, the sudden red of a pomegranate skin when a torch passes by and wakes it. She feels the small tap of her heart at the sight of Hermes. It is the first living, warm-from-the-sun face she has seen in days. Tap, tap. Then still. Hades and Hermes walk a slow half-circle on the path. They are speaking in careful words, the kind that stack neatly and do not collapse. Persephone cannot hear them, but she can read posture and hands. Hades's shoulders are even, not defensive. Hermes's palms turn up when he makes a point, down when he receives one. It is not a fight, it is a weighing. Later, Hades comes to Persephone where she sits on the bench. He does not stand over her. He folds to sit on the low stone as well, and the shared level makes the talk easier. "Zeus asks for your return," he says simply. Persephone looks at the water. A small fish glides and disappears under a rock. She thinks of her mother drawing a shawl around her shoulders at night. She thinks of new shoots pushing up, the little punch of life. She thinks of this place, which is not cruel, not cold if you learn where the fires are. "And you?" she asks. "I ask for what is fair," Hades says. "You were taken without your mother's leave, and yet you have been honored here. If you return, the world above will breathe again. If you stay, this world will gain a queen who understands both growing and resting." He pauses. "Hermes will carry back our words. What do you want him to carry?" Persephone feels her own heartbeat as if it were a small drum in a distant room, steady and present. She places her hand on the stone bench, flat, feeling the texture. Breath in, breath out. The choice is not simple, and it does not need to be made in a rush. "I want my mother to know I am not lost," she says, "and I want the world not to hunger." Hades nods. "Then that is the shape of the talk," he says. "There is a way to cut the year into parts, to give and keep in turn. It is not perfect, nothing is, but it is a way." They fall quiet. The river keeps humming. Far off, someone drops a tool, and the small ring of it travels and fades. Persephone looks again at the pomegranate trees. The fruit hangs heavy, unbroken. She knows what Hermes has said about food and bonds. Hades has not offered. He has kept his promise. The choice remains hers. Above, Demeter sits on the threshold of her new temple at dusk. The stones are warm from the day, and then slowly, gently let their heat go. People have brought grain to place on the altar. They have brought their tiredness too, and set it down for a moment. Demeter's hands rest palm down on the step. She feels the world's pulse through the rock, slow, tired, patient. A woman comes to her with a small loaf wrapped in cloth. "For you," she says, "from our oven. It is not much." Demeter smiles with her mouth and with her eyes. She tears the loaf and eats, and the taste is the taste of kindness itself, simple bread, clean salt. She swallows and closes her eyes, not to sleep, only to rest them against the soft dark that is coming on. "I will have her back," she says, not to the woman, not to the stone, but to the quiet that carries such words to places they need to go. Night comes down like a blanket pulled up by a careful hand. Fields, even thin fields, look peaceful under it. Fires blink and settle. A child turns in sleep and sighs. In the underworld, lamps are lit along a corridor, one by one, each flame making a small circle of gold that touches the next. Persephone watches the line of lights, and somewhere above, Demeter watches the line of lamps in her temple. Mother and daughter, apart, both set their hands flat on the surfaces before them to feel what is steady. Hermes will carry words between worlds at dawn. For now, the story rests here. A garden in the quiet country below, a temple on a hill above, a mother keeping vigil with warmth and bread, a daughter learning the shape of a place that is not only endings, but also keeping. The river hums. The stones hold their heat a moment longer. Breath in, breath out. The year is waiting to be divided, and morning will come. Morning keeps its promise. Hermes rises with it and crosses the spaces between like a swallow cutting air. He reaches Olympus with Hades' answer and Persephone's wish, then carries words to Demeter. The next steps will be steady, like laying stones for a path. Zeus calls for a meeting at the edge between worlds, a grove where roots grip rock and a narrow stair vanishes into shade. Hecate stands with twin torches. Hermes waits as a door held open. Demeter arrives as a woman who has walked far. Her hands are empty. Hades comes by the shaded way, calm as always. No one shouts. The air itself asks for measured voices. Zeus begins. Sister, brother, the earth thins above. The halls are orderly below. We will bind them with terms that keep both whole. Terms begin with my daughter's return, Demeter says. Terms begin with her safety and with her say, Hades answers. I have kept both. Then we ask her, Hermes says, easing a hand toward the stair. Hecate lifts her torches. The tight steps ease for ascending feet. They find Persephone in a garden by a slow river. She stands when she sees them. For a heartbeat, there is only the river's hush. Then breath returns to all at once. Mother, she says. The word warms the room. Demeter reaches her in 2 steps and takes her shoulders. Have they harmed you? No, Persephone says. I have been honored and left free. Then come home, Demeter says. Yes, Persephone answers, then adds, and also, yes, to hear. Above, I am your child, and the world wakes. Below, I am something that still belongs to you, and to me. You are tired, Demeter says gently. Come up, we will talk after. Persephone glances at the pomegranate trees. Hades explained the law about food. Taste makes ties. She has not eaten. Choice is hers. She lifts a fruit, presses her thumb to the soft spot, and the skin gives with a small crack. The scent rises, bright and familiar. Daughter, Demeter murmurs. I know, Persephone says. She splits the fruit and counts 6 seeds into her palm. They shine like held sunset. She eats them one by one, cool, then sweet, then clean tart. She swallows, feels warmth settle low and steady, and her heart answers once, firm. With each seed, her choice feels clearer, not heavier. Hades does not speak. Hermes is only witness. Hecate lifts a torch a finger's width so the light is honest. Persephone opens her hand, stained. Now I can go up without lying about where I belong, she says. I will return. I will also leave. We will count the year together. Demeter sits so her next words do not sharpen. 6, she says. You chose 6. Half and half, Persephone says. Demeter breathes, steadying. She looks at Hades. You did not make her do it. No, Hades says. Good, Demeter answers. Then we make this right. They return to the boundary place. Zeus waits under open sky. He sees Persephone's palm and nods. Speak it plainly, he says. Demeter speaks first. 6 months below, 6 above. When she is with him, I will not fight the law. When she is with me, he will not call. We will mark the turn with rites. Zeus looks to Hades. Do you accept? I do, Hades says. He turns to Persephone. Do you? I do, she says. She joins their hands, mothers and husbands, making a bridge. Hermes smiles. I will tell the world with a plan. They set the plan. Spring marks her rise. Summer her time above. Autumn her hand in harvest. Winter the earth's rest when she returns below. At Eleusis, the people will learn rites to meet loss with courage and welcome return without greed. When the talking is done, Hermes lifts into the air with the message. Hecate lowers her torches. Zeus returns to the heights. Demeter folds her arm through Persephone's. Hades steps back to give them room for the first climb. They go up together. The grove smells of sap and clean bark. Demeter lays both palms on Persephone's face and draws her near. Cheek to cheek. A few tears cool on skin. The bargain in a small circle. They walk into the fields. People see them and do not shout. A girl smiles from a doorway. Demeter spreads her fingers, and slender wheat lifts half a hand's width. She presses her palm to a young apple tree, and the leaves deepen in color. At Eleusis, the temple waits. Demeter shows Persephone the hearth, the hidden jar, the order of steps. People gather in ordinary clothes, unafraid. Plant when the ground is eager, Demeter says. Harvest when the heads drop. Do not beg the earth. Listen. She does not promise life without grief. She teaches how to carry it. They share bread, figs, and olives. Persephone eats with them so they see that gods at a table do not make food strange. The loaves smell of yeast and warm stone. She breaks a piece. The crust crackles. The crumb is soft. She touches the torn surface with her thumb. Taste and touch make holy things human. Days lay themselves down. People plant and count. Babies are born and named. Old people sleep and are missed. In the underworld, Attendants sweep Persephone's halls for her return. Hades moves through his work without hurry, without delay. Sometimes he stands at the edge of the asphodel field, listening to the river, thinking about her voice. Autumn arrives. Apples darken. Mothers feel departures in their own chests before anyone speaks. Demeter and Persephone stand at the grove's edge. They do not make speeches. Persephone presses her forehead to Demeter's for 3 long breaths. Demeter places a ribbon in Persephone's palm, scented faintly of crushed leaves. "For days you want a touch from home," she says. "It smells like work," Persephone smiles. "Work is a kind of love," Demeter answers. Hades meets Persephone at the stair, not in triumph, only in simple happiness. He offers his arm. She takes it. The underworld brightens a degree when she crosses the threshold. Lamps bloom earlier. Attendants move with a touch more purpose. In the hall where judgments are made, she sets her chair beside Hades's. When she listens, she rests her fingers lightly on the table's edge. The touch steadies speakers. Hades's matching stillness becomes its own sign. The two together make that room human, without loosening the rules that keep it useful. On a quiet day, Persephone kneels in the asphodel and brushes a pale bloom with the back of her fingers. "It is not sorrow," she says when Hades joins her. "It is the color of a memory that no longer hurts." "That is a good color," Hades says. They walk the path. From deeper in the halls comes the ring of a bronze tool dropped, and the sound returns faint. "Sound takes its time here," Persephone says. "It does," Hades replies. "When music comes, it travels farther than you think." "When music comes," she repeats, testing the phrase. Above, winter sets in cleanly. Smoke climbs straight on still mornings and bends on windy ones. Kitchens soften roots until they turn sweet. At night, stories are told. Grandmothers say the queen below will rise when the first shoots pierce the soil, and children nod because they have seen shoots and know the sound of crust breaking. Demeter watches the ridges. One day, as simple as a breath, the earth changes its mind. Fields loosen. A bird tries 3 notes that sound like a question. Demeter smiles and turns toward the grove. Persephone rises. She does not rush. She lays her hand on a pomegranate tree. "I will be back," she says. She kisses her fingers, presses them to the bark, and goes to meet Hades. He holds out his hand. She takes it, palm to palm. One steady heartbeat shared. "Bring back stories," Hades says. "I will," she answers. "Keep the rules well." "I will," he says. They climb. Spring meets them like a neighbor, opening a door before you knock. Persephone steps onto soft ground. The smell arrives first. Damp soil, green cuttings, the faint sweetness of petals not yet open. Demeter's laughter reaches her before Demeter does. They meet with arms and foreheads and count a few steady breaths. Planting begins, a joy after winter. People move in rows with seed bags, pressing seeds into earth and covering them with care. Persephone kneels and does the same. Dirt lines her hands. She rubs thumb against forefinger and smiles at the grit. Demeter watches with warm satisfaction. At Eleusis, they teach new faces. They grind grain, mix it with water and herbs, and share the sacred cup. It tastes simple and honest. People drink and feel quiet courage. Time settles into a circle people can trust. Children hang small wreaths. Bakers shape sheaf loaves in autumn and braid rings in winter to remember that emptiness does not last. In spring, someone brings the first strawberry to the temple. In summer, the smells are full: crushed grass, warm stone, bread on a sill. In the underworld, Persephone starts a custom: a light hand on the shoulder of anyone with a fair request. Speakers steady. Hades leans forward in quiet attention. The room feels kinder while rules hold. One afternoon, they sit on the bench by the river, cool stone under them. They do not need talk. A sound threads the air so faint they mistake it for water over rock. It is not the river. It is a line of notes, each placed with such care that even the stone listens. Hades tilts his head. Persephone presses her palm flat to the bench to feel how the sound moves through it. The notes come from far away, and yet arrive as if in the next room. "What is that?" she asks, though she knows it is music. Naming helps the heart hold it. "Someone above is playing," Hades says, "or someone is playing for above and below at once." The melody grows clearer, sure and patient. It brushes the skin, a prickle on the forearm, a small warmth under the ribs. Persephone breathes in, and the notes settle where breath becomes voice. "Music," she says, simple and glad. "It travels farther than anything." "It does," Hades agrees. "Sometimes it brings requests with it." They sit and let the sound go along corridors and under doors. Some quiet souls turn their heads, surprised to remember that surprise is possible. No flare. The music carries its own light. After a time, the notes fade. Stone holds them a moment longer, like warmth after a hand leaves. Persephone looks at Hades. "When the player comes," she says, as if it were decided, "let us hear him." "We will," Hades says. "There are rules. We will tell him the rules. But first, we will listen." Above, evening steps in softly. Someone sets herbs to steep, and mint fills a small room. Demeter stands in a doorway and watches the first star. She thinks of her daughter's hand on a pomegranate tree and feels her own heart answer once, calm and full. The year will keep turning. Persephone will go and come. Hades will hold his gates. Demeter will feed the world. Hermes will walk the roads between. Hecate will keep thresholds bright enough for the next step. People will plant, wait, harvest, and rest. And somewhere, a musician will tune his strings and test a phrase until it carries hope that can live in darkness and still sound like morning. That is where this story settles for now. In a world that has learned to divide the year without breaking it. In a house where bread smells clean. In a hall where lamps burn steady. In the touch of a mother's palm on a brow, and the press of a queen's hand to cool stone. Next comes the one who follows love into the quiet country below and tries to lead it back by song. The path is open. The listeners are ready. The world has always listened to music. It is older than language, older than memory. The gods themselves are not deaf to it. When certain strings are plucked, rivers pause their running, trees tilt their branches, and even the stones seem to lean closer. Among mortals, one man carried this gift more than any other. His name was Orpheus. Some said he was the son of a king. Others whispered he was the child of Apollo himself. Whatever the truth, it was agreed that his lyre was touched with divine favor. When Orpheus played, the air shifted. Birds fell silent, beasts lay still, and the restless heart grew calm. Yet, music alone could not fill a life. Orpheus's notes seemed to search for someone, not an audience of strangers, not the praise of gods, but one soul to hear him completely. That soul was Eurydice. She was no goddess, no royal daughter. She was a mortal woman who lived by the rhythms of field and hearth. People remembered her not for loud words, but for her quiet presence. In the simple way she bent to pick herbs or tied her sandals, she seemed to slow the day. When Orpheus first saw her, he thought the meadow itself had chosen to pause for her. He had been sitting on a riverbank, plucking a tune for no one but himself. She came walking with a basket in her hand. She stopped, listening, and tilted her head, as if the river had taken on a new sound. Orpheus lowered the lyre. "Did I disturb you?" "No," Eurydice said softly. "I thought the water had learned to sing." Her words struck him more deeply than any praise he had ever received. He smiled. "Then stay. Let me play for you." She sat down in the grass, basket by her knees. Orpheus played, and for the first time, the music felt finished. Their bond grew quickly. They walked together, sharing bread, gathering herbs, watching the sky change. He would hum a tune, and she would close her eyes, listening as if she could follow each note into its own small world. When he stumbled for words, she filled the silence with a smile. When she laughed, his heart kept time with it. They were married in a glade, surrounded by friends and kin. Orpheus played as she walked toward him, his fingers steady, though his chest trembled. The garlands hung heavy on branches, hymns rose in the air, and the birds settled close as if curious. When vows were spoken, Orpheus touched his forehead to hers and whispered, "With you, every song finds its end." Her hand tightened around his. "Then don't stop playing." For a while, the world seemed whole. But fate, who measures thread without kindness, never forgets her work. One morning, Eurydice walked in the meadow with her companions. The grass brushed her ankles, and the sun pressed warmly against her shoulders. She bent to pick a flower, heart steady, breath light, From the green coils, a serpent slid forward. Its bite struck her ankle before anyone saw. She gasped, startled more than afraid, and fell back into the grass. The others ran to her, but the venom was fast. Her skin paled. Her breath came short and shallow. She pressed her hand into the earth, feeling its firmness one last time. By the time Orpheus reached her, she was still. He lifted her into his arms, pressing his cheek against hers, trying to breathe warmth back into her skin. He whispered her name again and again. The meadow, the trees, even the birds were silent, but Eurydice did not answer. He played for her there, though his hands shook. The notes came raw and aching, broken by sobs. The river slowed its surface. The air held its breath, yet she did not stir. In the days that followed, Orpheus wandered. His lyre was never still. The bright songs of his youth turned into laments that seemed too heavy for the strings. Shepherds wept when they heard him. Fishermen forgot their nets and listened. Even rocks on the hillside felt softer, as if they had learned grief. He could not rest. Each night he sat by the river where they had first met. His fingers touched the strings, coaxing fragments of the life he had lost. Finally, one evening, he whispered, "If my music can move the world, then let it move her back to me." He rose. He strapped the lyre across his shoulder. His heart pounded in his chest like fists on a closed door. He would go to the only place where Eurydice could still be found. He would go to the land of the dead. The road downward was long. Few dared it, but Orpheus walked with steady steps, guided by scraps of old stories, by shrines to Demeter, by whispers from priests who knew the pathways of shadow. He found the cave that yawned dark and cool, its stone mouth damp with unseen water. He placed one hand against the wall. The grit pressed into his skin, cold and real. His breath fogged before him, though the sun still burned outside. He descended. At first, the path was narrow, then wider, twisting into echoing halls. His footsteps tapped the stone, then disappeared into muffled silence. The air grew thick, the kind that weighs on your chest. Shadows gathered at the edges, and the light from above slipped away. He played. A low, steady line of notes. Each sound bounced from wall to wall, guiding him forward. He followed the music as if it were a rope in the dark. At the river's edge, he found Charon, the ferryman. The boat rocked gently in black water that smelled of pitch and damp wood. Charon's eyes were pale, his face lined by endless years of waiting. "No living soul crosses," the ferryman said. His voice was flat, unbothered. Orpheus lifted his lyre and played. The music was not command, it was grief shaped into sound. It was the ache of one who had lost half his heart. The boat shifted closer, as if the water itself leaned toward the melody. Charon said nothing more. He held out his hand, and Orpheus gave him the single coin he had carried for this moment. He stepped into the boat. The wood creaked under his weight. His knees trembled, his heart beat hard, but the strings kept steady. The river carried them across. Orpheus's song filled the cavern, echoing against the stone, weaving into the silence of the dead. Shadows on the banks lifted their heads, surprised to hear a voice so alive. On the far side, the boat touched shore. Charon gestured with his oar, and Orpheus stepped onto the path. Ahead, the underworld stretched, dim light without source, fields of asphodel where countless souls drifted like pale grass, and far in the distance the darker halls where judgment was given. He tightened his grip on the lyre. His breath came steady. He walked on, music rising around him, as though each note built the path beneath his feet. He walked farther in, until dim light rose from the stone itself. Fields of asphodel opened on both sides, pale and quiet. Faces turned as he passed, men and women who had finished their errands. Orpheus bowed to them and kept playing, a steady pulse like a lantern in fog. At a bend, a darker mass settled into shape. 3 heads, 1 body. The hound of the gate watched with 6 patient eyes. Its breathing filled the hall. Orpheus sat cross-legged and set the lyre in his lap. "Forgive me," he said softly. "I am only passing." He played a small song and matched it to the hound's breath. In, out, in, out. The center head drooped. The right laid its chin on its paws. Orpheus held out an open palm. Warm air washed his skin. The hound sighed and slept. Columns appeared, lamps burned, and a hall opened with 2 thrones, a still-handed king and a queen whose gaze held both spring and winter. Hades regarded him without impatience. Persephone's eyes were kind. Orpheus bowed. "Name yourself," Hades said. "Orpheus," he answered, "son of Calypio." He lifted the lyre. "I have come to beg for a life." "Every life ends here," Hades said. "It is our law." "I know," Orpheus said, "but law and mercy are not enemies." Persephone leaned forward. "Whose name?" "Eurydice," he said. "She died by chance. She did not seek death. Let me bring her back to work not finished." "Many die by chance," Hades said. "What makes your asking different?" "Because I am the one asking," Orpheus said. "I loved her. I will follow your rule and owe the world for the kindness." Persephone weighed his words. "Play." He chose a few clear notes and left room for silence. He braided memory into the melody. Small things, the weight of a basket, the smell of hair warmed by sun. 2 people breathing the same rhythm under a tree. The hall listened. Even the attendants let their shoulders drop. When the song ended, he waited. "Your music tells the truth," Persephone said. Hades nodded. "There is a way, not a gift, a path. Lead her out with a condition. She follows behind, and you do not look back until you both stand under the sun. Turn before that, and she returns. No second asking. I accept, he said, and set his palm on the lyre's wood to remind himself to go forward. Persephone lifted a hand. From the shadowed side, a figure stepped. Eurydice came quietly, as if she had been standing there all along. She was pale, but her face was her face. When she saw him, she drew in a breath. For a heartbeat, the hall was only the space between their hands. He did not run to her. He turned the way they had told him. "I'm here," he said softly, not looking back. "Follow me. Listen for the strings." They began the climb. He kept the lyre close to his chest. He played a low, steady tune, simple enough to walk by, strong enough to carry. The path rose in slopes and steps. The air pressed cool on his cheeks. At first, he heard the slight drag of her footfalls, a whisper on stone. After a time, the path narrowed. Their steps fell in the same line. He felt a faint move of air when she shifted. His heart matched the tune. Beat, step, note. He did not speak often. "Small rise," he warned once. "Wedding bread," he said once more. Mostly, he played. They reached a place where sound dampened. The walls pulled music down. The notes felt thin. He eased his grip and found the tone again. Behind him, he could no longer hear her steps. He told himself she moved more quietly now. Doubt rose anyway. He did not turn. He counted. He set the beat with his heel. He remembered her fingers fitting between his, and the weight of her head on his shoulder. If the memories were so clear, she must be real behind him. He went on. He took one more step and felt faint sunlight on his forehead. He wanted, with a power that shook his hands, to turn and see her face in that light. He did not turn. He took another step. The warmth widened across his brow. He could see the first blue. He almost laughed. Behind him came a soft sound, the catch in breath a person makes when they see something familiar after a long absence. His heart jolted and hammered. He lifted his hand without thinking, reaching back. His fingertips brushed air. They did not meet skin. The light changed, warmer. The air held a green thread, like crushed leaves. He felt it on his tongue when he breathed through his mouth. "Almost," he said. The path sloped up more sharply. His knee brushed a rock. Pain stung through cloth. The smallness of it proved the body was here. At the top, a thin breeze met his face. It smelled of pine and dust. Far away, a bird called. The world above was near. "Don't," he whispered to himself. The word came late. He had already shifted. He turned just enough for his eyes to find her. For a heartbeat, he saw her. There, hands reaching, expression tender and asking. He reached for her. Their palms almost touched. A cool wash of air lay where her warmth should have been. Then the space between their hands widened without them moving. She thinned like breath on a mirror and drifted back, quiet as a rule obeying itself. Eurydice, he said. The name came out steady. He stood with the warm stripe of sun across his face and felt the cool where her hand had not been. Touch was the last message she left him, almost touch. He did not run after her. The bargain was clear. He set his hand against the stone, palm flat, and breathed until heartbeat matched breath. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. He stepped into daylight. The sun warmed his cheeks. Smoke from a far field made him think of bread. He stood a long time, quiet and sure he would not bargain with the loss. When he could move, he walked to the river where he had first seen her. He sat on the flat rock, set the lyre on his lap, and laid both hands on it without playing. The air tasted clean like water, with a faint grit of dust. A bee worked a flower near his knee. When he played again, the music had changed. It was not a wail. It was the sound of carrying something carefully. The notes left space for breath. People came and listened. They sat with him on the bank or under trees. They did not speak until the last note faded and the quiet grew wide. Then they went home and slept a little better than they expected to. Weeks became months. Orpheus moved from village to village. He played in courtyards, at wells, in fields at the edge of workday. He taught children simple patterns, the ones that fit a footstep or the swing of a hoe. He showed them how to keep a rhythm by resting a hand flat on a table to feel its beat. He showed grandmothers how to hum a line until the grind of grain matched it. Music became a tool again, and a friend. When people offered him food, he ate what they ate. He dipped bread in olive oil and tasted pepper and grass. He drank watered wine that smelled faintly of clay. He broke a warm fig with his thumb, sticky sweetness on his fingers, and the green scent of its leaf. Taste and smell brought the world back to the body. The seasons gave his grief a shape. Spring brightened. Summer worked and sang. Autumn leaned low. Winter let silence be music too. He let this shape hold him. On winter nights, he sat by a hearth and listened to others sing. He slept on mats that smelled of smoke and wool. He woke before dawn and tasted cold on his tongue, and the first sweet steam of porridge when someone lifted a lid. He did not forget Eurydice. He kept the small details, the curve of her knuckle, the tiny scar on her wrist from a bramble. Some days, remembering warmed him like a cup held in both hands. One clear evening, he climbed a hill above the river and watched the first stars appear. He tuned the lyre by touch until two strings agreed. The sky deepened. The little picture of the lyre rose. Orpheus lifted his instrument, glanced at its echo above, and played a tune that was almost silence. Down below, in the quiet country, Eurydice walked the pale fields. When Orpheus's music made its slow way through the earth, it found her. She turned toward it and pressed her palm to a smooth stone and let the notes pass through her like water. She understood that love can be a path even when it is not a door. Persephone heard it too and spoke to Hades without speaking. He nodded. Some rules hold so that other things can move. They kept the gates firm and allowed the music to cross. Hades regarded him without impatience. Persephone's eyes were kind. Orpheus bowed. "Name yourself," Hades said. "Orpheus," he answered, "son of Calliope." He lifted the lyre. "I have come to beg for a life." "Every life ends here," Hades said. "It is our law." "I know," Orpheus said, "but law and mercy are not enemies." Persephone leaned forward. "Whose name?" He played then, quietly. A few notes. A pause. A few more. The tune said, "I remember." The tune said, "I am here." The tune said, "The world is still worth the work." When he stopped, the quiet felt full. He lay back in the grass and looked up at the sky. The smell of warm earth rose around him. A cricket called, then another higher up the hill. He closed his eyes and rested. His mouth tasted faintly of summer dust and the last sweetness of a fig. Night widened. The river made its small, tireless sound. Orpheus rested with his hands folded over his chest, the way people do when they are done for the day but not yet asleep. He thought of Eurydice in the pale fields, of her hand on cool stone, of the space between two palms that almost touch. He let it be part of the song. If you had stood nearby, you would have heard him breathe. In, out, slow and measured. You would have seen his chest rise and fall, the same rhythm he once gave the hound at the gate. The stars moved a finger's width. The constellation of the lyre held its simple shape. He slept. The world breathed with him. Far below, a queen paused and smiled. Far above, a new listener held still to keep a melody. The night did what nights do best. It carried hearts without hurry and laid them down gently. In the morning, there would be bread, cool water, and the smell of crushed mint. In the evening, the first note of a song, then the next, then the pause that lets the heart answer. For now, there was only the river and the field, a resting man, and the kind shape of silence that feels like a friend. And if, as sleep deepened, music rose somewhere no one could point to, if a thread of it traveled down and up at once, touching all the places love had touched, that was only the world remembering how to hold a story. It remembered, kept time, and grew quiet again, like a hand that knows when to lift and let go.